I call Adrian Rafi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to take a call in this debate, second reading of the Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Transitional Provisions Amendment Bill. And I've been listening very carefully to the contributions from both sides of the House. And I think that the folks at home might be forgiven for not knowing who to blame as to why we're actually here tonight. And I'm here to tell you it's the government's fault. It's absolutely the government's fault. They were told when the original Act was passed that we'd be back in this House fixing it up. And it could very well be called the Fix It Up Bill, Mr. Speaker, because that's what we're here right now to pass this legislation, to make it the best that it can be, because when it was first brought to this House, it was not. And we've heard kōrero in this House tonight, sir, that points the blame at the industry as well, to Shell Todd Oil Services. I don't think any business should be blamed for operating within the law that exists. So I don't think they can be blamed for why this amendment bill is now required. And so they were acting quite totally within the law as it stands right now, and that is why it needs to be changed. And it's not the first time we've had to debate bills, sir, in this House that have come back. 34 bills in the statute amendment bill earlier in this Parliament. And there have been others as well. And this government is creating a little legacy for themselves, I think. A legacy that says we didn't get it right the first time because we rushed it through the House, and now we've brought it back here to fix it up. Labour will be supporting this bill, sir, because of that fact. We cannot afford for the Maui gas platform to shut down while the government gets its act together. That's not going to work for our economy. That's not going to work for the jobs that Joanne Hayes in her contribution talked about. And I can tell you the meetings that I've had in my electorate, sir, in Taranaki, people there are very worried in the oil industry. There have been a number of job losses in this sector, and I think these kinds of measures that we have to bring back to the House only serve to highlight that there are problems out in the regions. And in a meeting that I had along with a number of my colleagues in New Plymouth on Friday last, they raised those sorts of issues with us. And so I'm really pleased that we can, although it's not the best use of time in this House, sir, we could be debating much more important issues, but if the government had got this act right in the first place. Okay, so this bill, which is a lot better than the bill that was presented for first reading, and I want to acknowledge the work done by all of the members of the Select Committee in improving this beyond measure. And now we have a situation which can work. It can work for the industry, and it can certainly work for employees who might be worried about their jobs. They might be worried because if this legislation weren't here, then the Maui platform might just shut down for days or weeks because in waiting for an application to be processed. I don't know if there are going to be objections, but certainly with these procedures, a 9-month window for applications to be processed should have been included in the bill in the first place. Sir, our economy, the New Zealand economy, would do a lot better if we could get these procedures in a much more succinct way in the first instance. Our international reputation, people around the world are surely looking at us and thinking, what on earth are they doing? Why didn't they get it right in the first instance? We find ourselves here and I can't help but compare it to other things that are happening or not happening with the government. I think it just shows that the government is out of touch. I think it shows that the government is arrogant, and I have to agree with the comments from the New Zealand First member, Ron Mark, when he raised the issue and compared it to what was happening in terms of the housing and Ngāti Whātua, who I also met with last week as well, who are very concerned with these exact issues, that you can have a set of rules or set of principles that you might want to uphold for a piece of legislation like this one, the Exclusive Economic Zone amendment bill here that we're debating here, but you can have a different set of rules for someone else. And those are the kinds of things that the feedback that I get from my constituents around issues such as this, that it's just not fair. And so I really encourage the members opposite to think really carefully about some of these bills that they rush through the House. This one is a prime example, and I think there might be more, sir. And I think it's really important that we voice those concerns on behalf of our constituents. Sir, this piece of legislation, and I'll talk a bit more about Shell Todd Oil Services, which owns and operates the Maui gas platform. They are, as I understand it, they applied for the marine consent, but there is just not enough time for that to be processed. And so this piece of legislation is about providing more time, basically, from what my point of view. More time for a process which was flawed in the first instance. And so, sir, I wonder if this is not the last time that this Act is going to be amended. I think from what I understand, there are other instances as well which could cause this to be reviewed in the future. Mr. Speaker, in spite of the concerns that we might have about what will happen with this Act in the future, it is a better bill than it was on the first reading, and that is why we will support this bill. Thank you, sir.